Major support for these programs is provided by Bank of America Merrill Lynch and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, M&T Bank, Chase Commercial Term Lending. Additional support is provided by AVR Realty Company, LLC, Bingham McCutcheon, LLP, Briarwood Organization, Bruce Mosler, Capital One Bank, Cassidy Turley, C.B. Richard Ellis, Chelsea Lighting, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, DDG Partners, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, Friedman LLP, Accountants and Advisors, Gemini Real Estate Advisors, LLC, Genova Burns and Gian Tomasi, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Corman Communities, Madison Realty Capital, Margolin Weiner and Evans, LLP, Certified Public Accountants and Business Advisors, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Site Comply, Sterling and Sterling, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, the Wickoff Group, Urban American, and Ackman Ziff Real Estate, Ariel Property Advisors, Eastern Consolidated, Essex Capital Partners, Goldman Properties, Moynihan Group, Muss Development, RAL Development Services, the Spandrel Group, LLC, Rosewood Realty Group, Triangle Equities.
Everyone enjoys eating, and I have the chefs, he's not a chef really, you know, and everybody who really knows about food in the country, around the world. I have the top guys today and the top chef, and the Iron Chefs, who are going to talk about how they see the restaurant business in 2012. My guests today include Laurent Torador, Master Chef, Celebrity Chef, LT Restaurants. Then the latest, newest Iron Chef, Jeffrey Zakarian, who is a master chef, also of the Lambs Club and the National. Then on this side, he grew this beard so he can look like a Hasidic rabbi. Scott Conant, you know, so people wouldn't say from Scott Petto, but maybe it should be Kutches on the green. Okay. And last but not least, my executive producer for every one of my restaurant shows.
What's my name?
Drew, I wouldn't even say. We don't.
What's my name?
Okay, it's Drew Naport. Okay, so, you know, we were going to say, you know, what's happening with the world. So how do you see the restaurant market today? I know it's Super Bowl. You know, you haven't eaten it in a couple of days.
No, it's been a few hours, but let me simply say we've done a few of these shows, and today we've assembled some of the greatest losers. No,
The biggest losers.
no. There's a new show. No, we're actually, these guys are all trailblazers. So to answer your question,
They all have cookbooks.
Well-
Everyone has. Do I need a cookbook? The worst.
Well, actually, three of us were on a series TV show. Scott, of course, was the you know, the major. He was the MC. The host. That's why they canceled it, probably. But Laurent Tourandel, I do want to say something very serious here. Number one, the State of the Union as it comes to restaurants is pretty good, especially when you have people who are as professional as the people sitting next to me. And specifically, you know, I could canonize each one of those, but Laurent Tourandel, it should be pointed out, is probably revolutionized American cooking in the United States as a French chef, which usually the French chefs scorned the whole idiom, the whole idea of American food. And this young man who worked in some of the best French restaurants and schooled in French cooking really made a point of studying this country and then hit the ground running with BLT steak, BLT fish, BLT market, BLT burger, and they're all spectacular.
Thank you.
And now, you know, LT Burger and he's opening up a couple of other places. And Joffrey and Scott. But how do you look at the market? I mean, because you're not. We were once doing a show, and we said, how does a young chef or how does a young person get into the restaurant market? Is it much harder in 2012 than before?
It's funny because it's changed so much. I mean, I'm a lot younger than Jeffrey. I mean, a lot younger than
really?
Jeffrey.
You couldn't tell, but
How do you get a red beard? I mean,
it's
Santa
funny
Claus.
because it's really only the beard that's red, in case you're wondering. But so the thing is that it's not like it used to be in the restaurant business. The Food Network, I feel like, has changed the dynamic and the interest in young people. I'm sure, Jeffrey, it happens to you all the time. Walking through an airport, someone recognizes you from the Food Network. They recognize me from the show that I've done and do. And they're 9, 10, 8, 10-year-old kids that are like, oh my God, I want to be a chef when I grow up. True, right or wrong? That never happened.
No,
until the mid-90s.
I think it's a double-edged
right?
sword, though, also, Scott, because I think there's a proper way to have your professional restaurant business and also to have your television or celebrity chef side. And you should probably talk to this more than me, because in the case of Gordon Ramsay, I think the pendulum swung so far away.
But Gordon Ramsay plays a different personality.
But
okay?
it hurt. I believe it hurt his
Look,
restaurant.
I agree.
I happen to be. I'm a Food Network. I mean, I can't cook. I mean, really, my wife says, you have all these people, you don't even like good food. But, but the idea is I enjoy it. You look at the chop box, you look at this and you look, I mean, the Iron Chef and all this situation.
He's on.
But all of this is a different world. And you know what? It's true. But the biggest problem is, people see you on these shows and then they say they want to go. Do they help you that much for your restaurants?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a phenomenon, and I'll just speak to it because it's true. I do get recognized, mostly in nursing homes.
Wait a second. I was in a taxi the other day coming back, and I saw you on.
I didn't get a taxi. It was a nice week. But I mean, I think I speak for everybody here that we were chefs first, cooks first, chefs second. We did pretty well. We got some notoriety, and then the TV thing hit us. We just happened to be in the way. So we got hit by this bus that took us along the way, and then we got a show. We got a chance at a show, and it's an amazing marketing tool. And so now, we turned our lives around to market from a TV standpoint first, because what it does is it gives such adrenaline. It's like a caffeine boost.
But here's
to
a
the
question.
customer base.
And, I think Laurent and everyone, we were talking about this before, because Laurent arrived first. Even though you are celebrity chefs, you celebrity restaurateurs, the biggest problem is banks still have this miserable perception. They don't want to lend to people in the restaurant business, while they'll lend to a hotel where they have the same situation, that each day, if the register isn't there, you have to hope that's going on. How do you get financing for a restaurant? I mean, the meatpacking district is an impossible neighborhood. Your new restaurant, I mean, you're opening up 2 in Manhattan, one Bryant Park, and then in the
45th and
46, which is a great location. But the banks say, hey, you may be great, and I think Joffrey made the comment how you get it, but how do you get financing?
Very difficult. I mean, on my case, is trying to find partners, friend of mine who are in a banking industry, and lending money personally. I mean, going to a bank, very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. I mean,
requires a lot of charm. A lot of charm.
Boy, I have to change the show tonight.
No, but I think we've all faced it at different points in our career, that sometimes it's easier than others. But capital is always an issue. Raising capital, how much do you give away, structuring a good deal, those are things that everybody has struggled with at different points in their career. And I think the key is to learn from the mistakes you've made in the past and then move forward.
Good point. Yeah.
I mean, it's sometimes very expensive money.
I can say there's a couple of ways of going about it. I mean, one way is to just look at management deals, where a real estate company or has a portfolio of deals, and they will hire us as management partners.
Which is great.
Which is great. There's no, you're not, there's
you're
no,
not outlaying any capital.
and
you're really getting.
We don't normally, historically, have a lot of capital to outlay, because, and banks will loan to hotels because they have an asset. They have like lease real estate that they can leverage. We don't really have anything to leverage. We have tables, chairs, a couple of ovens. I mean, what are you going to sell that for? We have a space inside a restaurant.
And as soon as the space goes in
London,
it's half value.
In London, they have 99-year leases, so there's a bit different value that you can loan against. There's a bit of asset base is there. But for here, I mean, I guess charm is a great word. I say, like, we kiss a lot of frogs, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
talk to a lot
of
of
us-
people to find out the right deals.
All of us currently all have relationships with either hotels, resorts. He's in the Montage, Scarpetta's in the Montage in
Beverly
Los
Hills.
Angeles, and also in
Fontainebleau,
the
too.
Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. You're in the Benjamin Hotel.
I'm only in hotels.
I just came back from Vegas. I was opposite. You have an installation at the Mirage, and
Yeah.
you've been in the W Hotel. and-
Ritz-Carlton, W.
So the answer is, rather than going to the bank, we make these strategic alliances.
That's
with,
right.
But as
with
Joffrey
these
said, these
businesses.
are a lot of them are management agreements where at least you're getting paid a percentage and supervising, as opposed to a couple of years ago when we had Bastianich over here who opens up in Vegas and he's running this space.
Well, everyone has to decide for themselves their level of risk.
Yeah. I mean, is it a good as in the bad doing a management deal? I mean, there is a good and the bad into it.
That's right.
There's more risk, clearly more reward. The problem is, when you think of the other side of it, in these management deals, there's no true equity. So they're essentially services agreements, if you will. And that's the problem that we run into as chefs and restaurateurs, as we're thinking about the other side of these deals. If it's time to bring in a private equity company to buy out the shares and all this kind of stuff, clearly it's a very different mindset now than it was
you know
just
what?
10 years
I'm
ago.
going to tell you a very interesting story. You talk about the private equity. I used to be involved with Apollo Real Estate Advisors.
Oh, we should
Private,
talk.
private equity has a 7-year term in many cases, and at that term, the business may be doing well, but they have to sell it. They get rid of it, So unless you can find a new private equity or someone else, you can't have that entity over there. If you look at Stillman, when Tom Lee took him public, everything was fine. I haven't seen too many new restaurant guys go public.
Well, if you look at what happens, I mean, we have non-disturbance clauses, so we're usually okay if someone buys a hotel and we are in a hotel and the flag changes, we're okay.
It
provided
just
we have a-
happened to me, actually.
provided we have a non-disturbance clause that makes sense. But it's very difficult for us. If you look at all we get reports every day of who's selling. There's a lot of real estate people that sell restaurants. They send all to us. We all know who it is. And they go and they ask for key money. We're going to sell for pittances. I mean, if we're going out of business, we sell our tables and chairs for nothing. All you're really selling is a liquor license or maybe a few years on a lease. So we're really at a very high-risk business. I mean,
Here's the
it's almost
question.
like it's razor thin all the time.
You're in Broadway, and then you're on 50th and Lexington. You're going to be in 46th Street, and you're going to be over there. You're in the meatpacking. I'm talking about locally. I'm not talking about the other places. Have you looked at, what do you think of, I mean, he's been, even on his phone, it says eat it downtown. Have you thought of going to downtown? Have you thought of going into the financial district
I did,
now
yeah.
that the World Financial Center? What do you think of that? And what about the other? Look what happened in Williamsburg. I mean, what's happening over there is a different market. And I did a show recently, and everybody's talking about downtown Brooklyn. My joke about the only thing in downtown Brooklyn is you got juniors, so you can get an E, or you can get a good piece of cheesecake. Otherwise, there's nothing out over there. I mean, what about different markets? I mean, because the meatpacking district 10 years ago wasn't this way.
And, in the trajectory of rents in those neighborhoods at this point, I mean, that's the thing. I think, we all want to go into the next neighborhood, right? And if you look at Manhattan as a whole, I'm a big believer in the Flatiron District. I mean, a lot of these leases are going to be coming due in all those wholesale stores in the next 5-6 years, and I think you'll start to see
Do you
a lot more
realize
growth
that
inside
the
there.
latest survey on the office leases, the lowest vacancy was in the Flatiron area. Midtown South has a vacancy of 6%. That is 5%. That's the lowest in the country. I mean, what's going on? And if you take,
So
the
you're saying I'm
meatpack,
right?
you're 100% correct on that.
lucky sometimes.
But
It's
every one of the landlords is going to say, hey, we
Yeah.
got more people going there. 205th Avenue, Italy over there. You got Avon, you have major tenants over there. You go a couple of blocks away. Google is taking over the entire building at 111 8th Avenue. They're throwing every other tenant out. So there's a different market. But, you want a market that's not going to be $300 a square foot. You want a place where you can go into. I mean, is it downtown Brooklyn? Is it the financial district? I mean, at one time there was a place called Gage and Tollner. Then it became a Denny's or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, some of the area you just mentioned, like the financial district, it's not that great of a deal right now. I mean, I've been looking at recently.
the financial district is a number of years from now. You have to be a believer because the people who live there don't eat there. that in the financial district, not where you are in Tribeca. It's a different market.
Different area.
It's a different market. The Stone Street, you got the kids, they're not paying the money, okay? So it's a different type of market. And if Mr. Meyer, who happens to have a new big partner over there in the Conrad Hotel, when you're in Battery Park City, you're isolated. You are isolated.
Yeah.
Totally.
Nobody goes to there, okay?
And if you don't know it, all you have to do is go down there at 8 o'clock at night, and you realize it very quickly that you're the only one walking around.
Also, there is some restaurant who do amazing business, like all the way around Goldman Sachs, the new tower. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Look,
the
you know,
Palm and
the Palm. You know, I did Bruce's life on my show. You know, he said, you know, he didn't really expect the Palm to really do that well over there. But there's a lot of transition, and that's slightly Tribeca. They call that.
Yeah, it's
You know,
really-
in the market. But how do you figure out in today's world? You know, because banks are tough and partners are tough, where you should go, because you know you're like real estate people. You're junkies, and you got to have that next place. You know, it's not you're not happy with the one place. I mean,
I think
you
for
could have
me-
been happy with Montrachet.
I can always say, well, we look at deals for wherever they are. I look for financial viability. If it's downtown, uptown, does it work? It's just very simple. If it works, I can dream all I want, but if it doesn't work on paper, it just doesn't work. I mean, you know, I would love to be downtown, but the rents downtown aren't that much more different than Midtown. And here, what do I have in Midtown? I have breakfast and I have lunch and I have business that I might not have. I might not have a skyscraper.
I mean,
So
the famed
Midtown-
Shelley Fireman said to me once, and it was great. He says, when I opened up on 3rd Avenue and 63rd Street, I didn't have customers. He says, when I'm on 7th Avenue or when I'm in Broadway, I got breakfast, I got lunch, I got dinner. I make money. If I can get 2 meals a day, I'm fine. You know, I can't depend on 1 meal a day. You know,
that's right.
It's true.
It's so and the fringes are so expensive. The FICA, the unemployment, all the other costs have pushed us into a position where we're like fighting for every single
Well, then you
percent.
take into consideration now the health permits and things of this nature. I mean, over the past year, someone recited a quote to me that the city government has raised over $10 million since they started putting letter grades on restaurants. $10 million in additional income. The restaurants always seem to be the ones taking the hit in these cases.
Scott, here's the question. Do you think, it's for all of you, do you think that the grade has an effect on the customers? I believe it does. I believe 100%.
I think that, I mean, there's a lot of A's and there's a lot of B's and there's a lot of pendings. I think if you have those three, you're okay. If you have the C, you're in trouble. Because I think a B is almost an A, and like, what the hell? They're
Right, but the
probably,
pending is also a fight sometimes.
No, but the pending means it could be an issue with, like technical issue. There could be an engineering issue. There could be something else that's not
Yep.
health related. But it's not like the C screams. A pending doesn't scream.
It's not only about food.
Yeah.
The sea.
Yeah, I understand.
So I think that, you know, I've just noticed they come in, and I'll tell you, I believe that they come in and they attract people that are high profile. I absolutely believe that. I've had
question
4
about it.
inspections in the last 6 months, and every time I had a show or when I won Iron Chef, they came in the next day. They went to national. It was like I was like, this is like a joke. And when Jay-Z had his baby, what did they do the next day? They went to his restaurant and they closed him down. Remember, he had that renovation of 4040, his club.
Oh, the next day.
The next day, it was unbelievable. I'm like, this is just
When I had my,
Harassment.
it's harassment.
when I
It's
had my
horrible.
Vietnamese restaurant, the mayor made a reservation to come for dinner. So, you know, we made arrangements. The mayor comes in. And we also had Philippe Petit, the fellow who walked the Trade Center, having dinner there that night. And in walks the health department. I honestly thought it was an episode of Punked, because, you know, you have the mayor of the city. So I made a comment to the mayor. He goes, "What do you have to worry about?" And, you know, I introduced the inspector, the health inspector, to the mayor, and he was nervous as can be. And I thought, all right, so this guy's gonna, you know, he's gonna be okay with us. And of course, we failed that night.
Yeah.
I mean, they're almost. Listen, I know they have a job to do, but I almost feel that there's an agenda here, depending upon who you are. And listen, some of us have relationships with the city government, so we can scream a little bit, and maybe it abates the problem. But I think it's a very unfair
Very unfair.
system. You don't get letter grades for driving a car, do you? I mean, you get a permit for driving a car. We used to have a permit for operating a restaurant. Now it's a letter grade. It's insane.
Let's, you know, in 2012, let's, food prices and labor and getting labor. How hard is it to get quality help in the restaurant business and the cost of food today?
Well, when you say quality, I think there are a great number of qualified people. And I think there are a great number of amazing restaurants in New York, more so than ever, and it's the best restaurant city in the world, if you ask me. As far as getting them, you just got to pay up. You got to pay up, and you got to pay up in anything, and you'll get them. But can you sustain that labor and that payroll?
That's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Listen, if you look at the cost of food over the past,
Oh, it's amazing. It's
I mean, the
just
past 10
crazy.
years, you see how expensive it is. Your cost of goods inside restaurants have just gotten so out of control. It's so difficult to sustain a restaurant. You know, it used to be just your occupancy expense used to be 8%. Now people are saying, okay, if I could live at 10%, I'm fine. Now people are talking about 12% occupancy fees. You're essentially working for the landlord. It just doesn't work. It's not a sustainable business. None of us, I'm sure, get emotional about brick and mortar. You can't. But you are passionate about what you do for a living. So when you feel like your back is up against the wall consistently, it makes for bad business.
This year we've had 50.5 million visitors to New York. Part of it was due to the euro. The euro has changed. It was $1.43, it's $1.29. Different world over here. What happens, how much
British
of your...
pound, too.
Okay, and the euro on the pound. What effect do you see that on your business? Because your customers are not only the New Yorkers, your customers are the out-of-towners. I mean...
I see some effect. I think for us, we're pretty much high-end restaurateurs, if I may just say that. I think...
As we would call the white table?
Well, you know, we have white tablecloths for average, I mean, $45 or $50 and up per person to eat, which is not expensive, but it's more expensive than, say, a lot of tourists come and they don't eat at that level, I would think. But I think that the bonus situation and the bank situation, the drastic drop in liquid bonuses is really going to have a huge effect. I mean, they pay 29% of the budget of the city is taxes.
Bank of
finance.
America, my major supporter.
You get a guy who gets $400,000
They don't
bonus
have,
one year,
they're
and
not
he gets
getting the
100
bonus.
next year.
They're getting the bonus in stock.
That's right.
You
Well, they
can't-
get $150 in cash.
But you know
it's
what?
nothing.
It's not the same.
It's a lot of
number.
money, but after taxes, it's
no,
75.
It's not there, and you know, I don't know, has it had an effect on your liquor? Have you seen a lower volume?
Eventually, it will, because those people, they'll go buy a car or a house, but then they'll come to dinner and celebrate. They're not going to celebrate with $150,000
I'm
bonus.
curious, you know, the NYC and Company, we have Restaurant Week. It's now been extended to almost
Restaurant
4,
month.
but it's good. And I don't know if you've seen it are you participating
Yes,
in the
we do.
promotion of Restaurant Week? It seems in the months of January and then when it's done in July, it really brings in more people than you're used to. And in fact, the one restaurant, Cortone, that I have that doesn't participate because we can't charge $35 for dinner, we're dead over the weeks. You know, our volume drops almost in half.
What happens to your restaurant in the meatpacking district at lunchtime?
I don't do lunch.
So you depend only on eating?
I depend on dinner. And I have a really small restaurant, so I wouldn't be able to keep up the volume if I did do lunch. The funny thing is I don't do Restaurant Week. But what I find, because I'm only at night, what I find is that I'm busier during Restaurant Week because most of the customers that would go to the other restaurants that are participating in Restaurant Week don't go to those restaurants. They come to restaurants that don't do Restaurant Week, so they don't have to necessarily,
Yeah, I experienced that too.
yeah.
Here's another thing. I remember some young guy called me up and he
Lunch.
wanted me to introduce him to Drew because he's with this company, Savor. They changed their name, you know, they're 30% off. And I just noticed that Hill Country Barbecue
I saw it today.
is offering this 30 off. What about these discounts? I mean, you can't really afford this.
They're really venomous. You got to be very careful. You got to be very careful. You end up making nothing. And when
I've
you do,
never done it.
yeah, and
myself, ever.
you get a customer.
At night?
You get a customer who is inclined to complain, and then with the web they can just go viral and it spirals out of control. That something you wanted to do to incur a great business is just hurt you in the opposite way.
And you bring up a very interesting point about the web. You know, there is a website that most of the hotels, I forgot the name of it, and these people give reviews on the hotels, and they could kill you, literally.
Yelp
you know,
and
it's,
Oh, Yelp,
yeah.
I mean, but the one in the hotels, and the Yelp isn't much,
TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor, which happens to be owned by Expedia, that nobody really knows that it's owned by Expedia, but these Yelps and the other things are really have an effect on your restaurant.
There's a new website that I wish I had the name of it. I don't have it with me. But what they do is they track the spending of customers. So it's what it is they track the spending of the customers and how many times these customers repeat in the same restaurants. So for me, that's not, I mean, it's much more reliable than something like Yelp because it's really a customer who's going back to the same restaurants over and over again.
You know, it's very interesting. When I did the life of Alan Stillman, he sent me a card for his restaurant. And this card I utilized last year on Valentine's Day because we were going to go to a restaurant and then we couldn't use it. And I called up, and this is a selected card, and in 10 minutes, you have a reservation. There's always this, and it's like this customer loyalty. It's not a discount card, but what it does is the customer loyalty, getting you in, and also he buys you an hors d'oeuvre or he'll get you a drink.
Sure.
And it's really a very good concept over there.
I think
It's like listing in your system who are the better customers, so you know.
we all, I think, utilize the online services of reservations, and the database that it affords us allows us to track who our better customers are. I know at Nobu, I'll look down the list, 224 visits, literally, certain people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable. And as smart as we are, our database up here, this is the way we used to do it as restaurateurs, and now we couldn't have that kind of information if it wasn't for the online.
How do cooking books? How do the books do? Do they help your business?
I think that book. I think it's the other way around. I think that your business can sort of help sell books, but I think the book is something that we all do as a prideful exercise. It's something it takes a couple of years to write.
Accomplishment.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment. We feel great about it, and you have something to like say this is a snapshot of where I was at this particular time. And obviously, you all want to write a lot of cookbooks, but I mean, to write a cookbook takes a lot of time, and it's not a lot of money. And I remember my first cookbook, I actually came out of pocket because I wanted to have nicer photography and nicer styling and a better person that tested
Because
the
it's your
recipes.
image, it's you.
Well, yeah, well, you want to.
it's your tangible marketing tool.
Yeah.
I guess that's
Very important.
the way I always explain it to people, that you're right. It's something that it's a part of your career. It's an accomplishment. It's a major endeavor. It's a lot of work. It's more of a labor of love than it's not a financial
And in
gain.
certain things, like Jeffrey says, you're paying for this. Even though you're not getting the advance, you're really doing it because it's a marketing tool and it's an accomplishment of what. Unfortunately, you couldn't do that because you never learned. No. I mean, you personally.
Oh, there's a Tribeca Grill cookbook that's very dated. I got to make another one now.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, I'm serious.
Better get to work.
Robert De
Your
Niro.
hair was darker actually back then too.
That's when he was able to run. You know how
I was wearing my prosperity.
he was wearing his person. So with like 30 seconds left, do you think 2012 is going to be a good year for the restaurant market in New York City?
Yeah, it feels good right now.
It's getting better.
It's already
I
been
think
good.
so.
It's getting better.
The Iron Chef says that if the Iron Chef says
You're looking at the new/old brigade here. These are the best of the best at this little table.
I'm really happy that my executive producer hopefully will win another telly.
I hope we
You know
win
this.
something.
It's
I have
pretty
to buy
good.
you lunch or something.
Okay, that you never do. But
I'll
okay.
vouch for that.
No,
He's
no.
not open.
Okay, he's not open.
Come to Scavetta. We're
Okay,
closed.
but look, okay, it's my special birthday this year that we're supposed to do something. I'd like to
Okay.
thank Laurent Torador, Jeffrey Zarkari, and Scott Conant, and of course Drew Naporin. See you next week.